Hello everybody and welcome back to Custom Spotlight. Now, last video we talked about how I made a model of Timothy, which somehow got marked for kids. So that video had to be pulled down and re-uploaded with a bit more swearing in it, which was great. But anyway, we're going to be talking about something that is not Thomas related for once. Kind of. Today I'm going to be showing y'all how I made a custom Tomy Playrail style Bachmann Jr. Stuart. Anyway, with that being said, let's jump on right in. Let me ask you guys something. What is a Bachmann Jr.? Well, it's a bit of a complicated story, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Before Bachmann UK had their hands on the Thomas license, they started selling Thomas and Percy repaints for a sub-theme in their Bachmann branch line range, which being the Junior range. Now obviously these models didn't sport the iconic grey faces we all know and love, but rather a smoke box door, one of these models being Stuart. Now what I find interesting about this model is that it appears to be wearing a real-life livery, the BR Blue livery, which we're gonna come back to that in a second. Now, I honestly don't remember when I first caught wind of Stuart, but I do remember what video I saw that gave me the inspiration to make this model. And that video will be linked in the description for your viewing pleasure. Once I figured out what I wanted to do for the next custom spotlight, I began thinking what I was going to use to make this model. Now, for those that remember from the previous custom spotlight video on Timothy, I hinted at the possibility of making a custom of the stinky blue boy that we all know and love. This did not work out, however, as I had forgotten to remove the cab sticker that's on the front of the body shell. Not to mention, I didn't really have any Tamiya modeling putty to make the firebox design for the model, so that model was quickly canned. But I still had the shell intact, so with no other option on me, I figured, screw it, I'll just use this. Now with all that being said, painting this model was an absolute nightmare. Now, sanding down the shell went as well as you would expect, and when I was done with that, I began adding a primer coat. Now, finding a shade of blue that closely resembled the Bachmann model was gonna be a little bit tricky, so I tried mixing some paint colors to get a color match going, which failed both times. So I instead went with a matte bright blue from Apple Barrel. After I applied the blue paint, I was faced with a very scary problem. Now, if I wanted to be as accurate as possible with this model, I had to find a way to add the black and blue together underneath the white lining. Thank God I had masking tape on me, because that shit was a lifesaver. Adding the black parts onto the body shell was one of the most stress-inducing experiences of my life. Like, if I had messed up in that situation, I would have had to restart, and I did not want to do that. But thankfully it turned out okay, and I was relieved. And if you thought that the stress-inducing shit was done, boy were you wrong! Adding the white lining onto the model was also quite stress-inducing. But thankfully, it turned out pretty okay for the most part. The smoke box was then sprayed in a matte clear coat, and once that had dried, I fitted the smoke box to the body. Stuart was coming together quite nicely. I then applied some gray paint onto the cab sides to give the illusion that he had cab doors. And after that, I don't remember what else I did to him. I think I probably just went to bed. Now, I had no intentions on making a face for Stuart, but after I had been making some brand new faces for the models, I decided to bite the bullet and make some for him. Now, if I ever go to any model train events, I'm not sure if I will bring him with his face intact, but I'll more than likely bring him with a smoke box door. Now, I ended up with a bit of a problem that I should have realized from the start. I did not have any spare foot plates on hand to use for Stuart, so I was in a bit of a pickle. Now, I'm not sure how the hell I managed to find it, but somehow I still had Timothy's old foot plate still intact. And then I got an idea. What if I made Stuart's foot plate a bit different from Thomas and Timothy's? What if it more resembled the real-life E2 footplate? I sanded down the body, painted whatever I could, and it looked pretty good for my standards. Hi, Editor Ian here. Something I forgot to mention during the recording of this was I sanded off the lamp iron and lamp off the footplate and basically filled that empty hole with sticky tack of all things. Look, I had a bit of a short budget at the time, okay? Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Back to the video. Around this time, I had also started painting his side rods in a nice red color. And if I'm being honest here, it was a much better idea than having to completely destroy my wallet just to buy a Tomy Stepney for those goddamn side rods. Once I was done with that, I painted his middle wheel black and sealed it all in with a matte clear coat. I ended up deciding to add a little strip of red on the footplate just to make it pop a bit more than just simply having the sides all black. And then came another difficult part of the model: the nameplate and number. This part took like a couple days to get right, but it's at a point now where I can say I'm satisfied with it. Now, I wanted to give Stuart a smoke box store, but at the time of recording this, I don't have the proper paint materials to do that, so he'll more than likely just sport his face for a couple of days until I can get that sorted out. And that pretty much is where Stuart stands at this point. Now, a couple days ago, I asked everyone in a community post what the next custom spotlight should be about. And looking at the results, I'm already regretting my choices. So that's gonna be fun. Anyways, that's all for this video. Have a happy spooky month, everybody.